Hi and welcome to my channel. It's your girl Blake. So today I'm here to talk about the Korean drama Our Blues. Now this is a gem of a show, and if you haven't watched it yet, it's currently on Netflix and there are 20 episodes of absolute wonderful entertaining viewing. I think this is going to be a drama for the ages. It's absolutely brilliant. And if you haven't watched it yet, you must. I think I'm going to say that this is my favorite this year. And if I rate it out of 5 stars, it's having all 5 of them. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Korean dramas, it has a star-filled cast. So for us, the viewers, that means that we're getting top-notch acting, top-notch, top shelf. If this was alcohol, it's premium. Absolutely, creme de la creme. The creme de la creme of actors are in this drama, which actually I think elevates the level of acting that we get to witness in the drama. And you will not be disappointed. In fact, if you watch this drama, you'll be moved, you'll be swept off your feet and fall in love with it. It definitely encapsulates the vicissitudes of life, the ups and downs, and it's set on the beautiful Korean island of Jeju, which is often referred to as the Korean Hawaii. You'll see why if you watch the drama. You'll get to see all of the beautiful landscapes, and just like the island surrounded by the sea with the ebbs and flows of the tide, we get to see a riveting slice of life drama that really highlights the ups and downs that we all have in life. It's set in Jeju, and we get to see from the outset that they are a close-knitted community, and we get to see every aspect of their daily life. This drama plays so well with the juxtaposition of the past and the present. The people who are the characters of the show are more or less childhood friends and have all grown up. Some of them have become married, business owners, some have started their own families, and you get to see a whole, I guess, spectrum of life, because some of the characters are middle school students or high school students, some of the characters are middle-aged, and some are elderly on their way out, unfortunately, but they've lived long lives. And I think I fell in love with this drama. You might watch the first episode and you might think, oh, this is quite slow. And I do believe that it does have a slight slow burn, but you will not be disappointed. If you watch the first episode and you're thinking, oh, this isn't really my cup of tea, I would recommend that you persevere and watch at least 3 episodes. By the 3rd episode, you'll be fully gripped into their lives and you'll want to know more about the other characters. The first episode, we do see most of the characters that are portrayed in the drama, but we don't know who they are. We're shown later on through the 20 episodes each character's story, and I like the way that the episodes are given titles which are the characters' names, so it really gives you a good in-depth perspective of each of the characters. Now, the first 3 episodes concentrates on the characters Eunhui and Hansu. Now, who are they? What's their story? It is a really touching story, actually. I thought that it portrayed first love well, and also it shows how parents are willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of their children's future. These first 3 episodes really play with the adage, friends and money don't mix. Now, let me break it down. What happened in episode 1? We're introduced to one of the main characters, Eunhui. In the morning, she's making rice balls. She's driving to go to the fish auction because we learn that her business is selling fish in the traditional market, and she's got a store. And not only does she have her own store, I think she owns 5 others, and has employees working selling fish for her. So she's up at the crack of dawn, she's driving along the street listening to music, eating a rice ball what she made in the morning, and she chucks one out of the window to, I think his name's Jongjun, who is the captain of the fishing boat where the Haenyeo, who are the diving women of Jeju Island, who they dive deep into the ocean, free diving to collect shellfish and abalone. We meet those two characters on their way to the fish auction, and I thought that was interesting because actually I have no idea about fish stores and fish markets and how they obtain their produce. So it's interesting to see that they have to go to the auction and the people who put the best bid are able to buy the produce. So that was an interesting aspect that I had no idea about at all. I had no idea how they came across their goods for market. Do you know what I mean? But I think I'm digressing. So we learn through some flashbacks that Unhui has come from not wealth actually, but from quite a poor background. She's come from a farming family, and there's one part where you see her get on the bus as a child or teenager, should I say, and she's holding a pig. She's got a little piggy, Wilbur, Charlotte's Web. It's one of my favourite childhood stories. She's carrying a pig on the bus, and Hansu's also on the bus. He's got rice or some kind of seeds that he's going to sell. I think they're having some kind of market day. And all of the kids are teasing her about the pig, about the smell, about her being poor. But Hansu, he defends her. So I think from that point we see that they had some kind of connection. Maybe he fancied her when they was younger. Also, Unhui lets us know during the 3 episodes that he was her first love and also her first kiss. Actually, the first kiss scene was so cute. She kissed him and she was embarrassed for others to find out, because I think she thought that people would tease her that he'd never be interested with her and that he would deny what happened, but he didn't, bless him. He was a man of his word even at a young age. He told everyone, because she was retelling the story to her mate about her first love, and he told her, you liked it too. And there's a scene with them drinking going, you liked it too. I thought that was really heartwarming. But anyway, I think I'm digressing again. We learned that Unhui has become quite successful with selling fish. She's got billion ok, or is it, I forgot the Korean amount, but believe me, it's a lot of money. Is it almost $1 million? I don't want to speculate because I'm not good at doing the conversions, but anyway, she's loaded, and she not only owns fish stores, she provides produce to supermarkets, and on top of that she owns a coffee shop. So Unhui is not short of cash. But on the converse, on the flip side, in contrast, her first love, Hansu, he's not doing so well financially. He's a bank manager, but because of his daughter's dream to be a golf player, he's even sold his house, and his wife is out there with the daughter in America, and poor Hansu is struggling to get the money together to help to finance his daughter's dream. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know that becoming a golf player was such an expensive sport. I mean, he's trying to get his daughter a coach, and the wife tells him that the coach is gonna cost almost 15 grand a month. 15 grand a month, bloody hell. I don't even, I wouldn't mind 15 grand a month for my own income, but I'm a long ways off that. But 15,000 a month for your daughter's golfing lessons, I think at that point he needed to give up on his daughter's dream. Now that sounds heartless, but that's awfully expensive. She should be able to get some sponsorships or something, because that's a ridiculous amount of money to pay for coaching fees, don't you think? Or is it just me? Am I just so cheap? So anyway, because of his daughter's dream, Hansu has got a bit of a reputation for begging from friends and family. In the first scene, we see that he retires, he gets some kind of settlement money from his job, and he moves back to his hometown of Jeju and starts working in SS Bank with his childhood friend Myungbo. And they go around to meet their clients, who are mainly merchants, and he discovers at this point that Unhui is loaded, and unfortunately she kind of becomes a target. Although I think she was the last resort and he didn't just go there scheming. He intended to borrow some money from a friend, I think while he was in Seoul working. And that friend told him that his wife said, don't ever borrow money to friends. And if you borrow him any money, we're going to get a divorce. So that friend was out. So that was one strike. So he then set his aims at getting money from his sister. But when he went to visit his sister on the farm, we learned that his sisters had sacrificed their education so that the firstborn son would be able to go to university. And then he's gone to university, and obviously he has become a success in his own right. A bank manager is not a bad career, but because of his daughter and his wife and funding his own family, he's unable to provide for the rest of his family, his sisters and his mom. And we learned that also at one point, I think he takes his mum with him to Seoul, but he done it sneakily and it left a bad taste in his friend's mouth or everyone else who's on Jeju, including his sisters. And his sister has a lot of resentment towards him, I guess, because she feels that she sacrificed everything and then she's struggling herself. But he wanted to ask his sister for money, but when he went to visit her on the farm with her husband, they weren't receptive at all. And there was a part where he said, okay, I'm going to go, you don't need to see me off. And I felt sorry for him because they obviously had no intention of seeing him off. And he left them some gifts and he goes back to his home, which he discovers is opposite Unhui's coffee shop. And he's looking at the coffee shop and he's like, I feel so jealous. Now, we also discover that Unhui's come from a big family and one of her brothers is called Ingwan, and Ingwan has his own story arc later down the line. But the first introduction to him was hilarious because someone tried to almost crashed into Unhui's van, and her brother comes to her defense because the guy is being verbally abusive, and then he calls them a moron or something, and the brother just like takes off his t-shirt like a little gangster to fight with the guy. And then the other friend turns up, Hansu, and Hansu gets punched in the face. I thought that whole scene was hilarious. It shows how tight-knit they really are. And what else happens? Yeah, during these first 3 episodes, he goes to karaoke because they're having a school reunion and he meets all of his old friends and they're having a laugh and stuff. And we learn that Unhui's childhood dream was to be a singer, and she'd done a good job at the little Noribang. Well, actually it wasn't Noribang, it's more like karaoke because they'd rented a room, and instead of having an individual room with your friends, they had a whole like hall, I guess, and it was all singing together. And because they're mainly merchants, they're drinking, daytime drinking. And I think we introduced to that part too. Hongshik and Ingwan seem to have a tumultuous relationship, and they almost have a little fight. And afterwards, when they're being dropped home, their kids come to pick them up, and Hongshik has a daughter, and what's his face, Ingwan's got a son, and they're both dead embarrassed to take their parents home drunk. But I can tell from their behaviour that it's a regular occurrence. After the reunion, Hansu is pretty drunk and Unhui's looking after him, and she's concerned because everyone made him pay the bill, which was almost $2,000 of drinking. Jesus. Anyway, he doesn't really want to go home because he's stressed, because he's got to find the money to pay for his daughter's golfing for the next year, and his wife has indicated that it's going to cost about 300 to 400 million won, which I think is about 200 to 300,000 US dollars, which is a significant amount of money for just a year's golfing. Bloody hell. So Hansu sends a message to his sister, and then his sister's really annoyed and she goes to the market and she blabs to Ingwan. So we see that gossip is rife in this community. So she goes and blabs to Ingwan about her brother, which I thought was pretty reckless. I mean, just talk to your husband about it. Did you need to go and shame him to his childhood friends? But anyway, she did. And then that put Ingwan on edge, that Hansu is asking for money because he knows that his sister has a soft spot in her heart for him. So he doesn't want his sister to become a target. But unfortunately, because Hansu's sister rejected him when he asked for the cash advance, he then sets his sight on Eunhui. And unfortunately, it was, I guess, on his part, a bad decision. He tells her that him and his wife are separated and suggests that they go on a trip to Mokpo, which is where they went on the childhood trip when they had the first kiss. He says that when he didn't want to go back home, he followed Eunhui on her daily routine to the market and saw the work that she does. And I think there was one part when they were talking about the childhood and they was looking at the sea, and she was remembering or reminiscing about how when they was young, they used to just run out into the sea without a care in the world, morning, noon, or night, wag school or abscond from school, should I say. And at that point, Hansu is feeling pretty defeated and low because in comparison to Eunhui, he feels like a failure, I guess. But for her, she doesn't know that he's struggling financially, and she constantly keeps talking about how everyone always wants to borrow money from her, which is obviously ripping him apart inside because that's his goal, isn't it? So he runs out into the sea, and this was beautifully shot cinematography. They show a scene with him when he's young and how he was so happy-go-lucky and carefree and running into the sea, and him as his present-day self in the sea side by side. And at this point, he's really depressed, and it's totally the opposite position from how he felt in his youth. And he's in the sea crying, and he's shouting out to Eunhui, Eunhui, can you borrow me some money? But obviously she can't hear him, so he turns around, and that's when he suggests that they take this trip to Mokpo. And I think the goal of the Mokpo trip is to borrow money from Eunhui, but she's unaware. She thinks that he's divorced, and she's looking forward to this trip. So they end up going to Mokpo, and then while they're in Mokpo, poor Eunhui's brother and Hongshik are going bananas, phoning her non-stop to try to let her know that she's being swindled. So they've got Hansu painted as the flipping Tinder swindler. Is it Tinder? The Tinder swindler. That was a great little documentary thing on Netflix. But they've got him out as the Jeju swindler out here trying to get Eunhui's gold. But it's not a lie. It isn't a lie, but his intentions aren't so malicious, I feel. He really does need the money, and it isn't to gamble, it's to support his daughter's dream. And there was one part when Ingwan says something, and I thought this was really cold and just an awful thing to say. He said, wow, I know my means. You shouldn't have children if you can't support them. I really hate this. Some people, they're not doing well financially, and having a child sometimes brings out the best in people. They strive, they have more ambition, and they do their best to provide financially for their kids. So I thought that was, as a parent himself, he shouldn't have ever said that, and that really hurt, that did to hear for me when I watched it. And Hansu and Eunhui reliving their past love and the scenes shown from their childhood and the present day, I thought that was so touching and heartwarming. But obviously he has a goal, doesn't he? He wants her money, so it's not all that glitters is gold. It's pretty bleak. So he's drinking wine and cheese with her in the hotel, and it's a 5-star hotel, and we see at that part that even though Eunhui has a lot of money, she's living pretty frugally, because there's a part when she says to herself, you must be crazy, why haven't you ever thought to treat yourself to this? And I thought that's really interesting, isn't it? Because some people, they're not born into wealth, and then they acquire it and they're not sure how to use it or enjoy the finer things in life. And she just mainly concentrates on work and making money. And I think she knows this about herself, because she confides in Hansu that when she was younger, her dream was to be a singer, but she couldn't pursue it, similar to Hansu, whose dream was to be a basketball player, because they both were, I think, the firstborn in their family, so they had a job to provide. So they forewent their own dreams without being requested to. They gave it up voluntarily because they knew they had a lot of responsibility, a big burden to bear basically. And I thought that's just really how life gets in the middle of people's goals and ambitions and childhood dreams. And sometimes people have them and they're buried, and you only remember them when you're around people that you grew up with, who knew you when you was a child. And I thought that was very realistic portrayal of friendship, actually, just friendship. And yeah, it wasn't all great though, because Ingwan and Hongshik do a bit of their own investigating. They get Myungbo to contact someone. They get a load of pictures showing that Mijin and Hansu are happily married and he is not separated from his wife or getting a divorce. And they send all those pictures to Eunhui and tell her that he is going to ask you for money. And then she confronts him and she said, how do you think of me? You don't think of me as a friend. And he said he thought that all she did was work and that he didn't want to ruin her childhood image of him. So how could he ask her for money? And that scene was just so sad. It was heartbreaking, really, because you could tell that even though he had thought about asking her, I'm not sure if he had the courage to follow through. But when she confronted him, he confessed and he apologized for it. And then he just left, and he actually just packed up everything and decided that he's gonna move back to Seoul. At that point, when he's leaving, she sends him the money, and because his situation had changed, she sent it her back. And I think that touched her too, but unfortunately a little bit of damage was done. But when she sent him the money, his whole situation had changed, because his wife had took it on herself and the daughter to leave America and return to Korea. When they told him that, he did feel relief, actually. And bless him, he'd been carrying such a huge burden so that his child could fulfill her dreams, because he had to sacrifice his, and he knew how it feels to live a life with regret and resentment. So I think he did his utmost best, and that's all you can do. And it also shows how parents, you know, if you're a parent, there's no shame and nothing you wouldn't do for your children. And I think these 3 episodes really portray that excellently. But I think this was a great opening to the show. I mean, come on, we all know friends and money don't mix. But ultimately, she's in a position, and I believe that if you are in a position to borrow money to people, if you are going to do that, you have to be in a position where if they don't return the money, that you wouldn't miss it. If you're in a position where if you borrow them money and if they don't return the money, you're going to miss it, then I think that means that's the biggest indicator that you shouldn't be borrowing. But if you can afford to give money and never see it back, I think that is the only time that you should borrow friends or family money. That's just my thought on it. But the first 3 episodes, they were brilliant. And so much more happened, so much more happened. So I think I'm gonna end this one here. If I've missed anything, because I'm sure I did, because my mind is all over the place, because it's swamped with all of the content from the whole 20 episodes. It's trying to separate everything out so that I can only talk about the 2 characters, Eunhui and Hansu. So if there's any scenes that you remember from the first 3 episodes that I didn't discuss that you think was worthy of note, then put it in the comments section. And if you like today's video, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao, annyeong. Excellent. That really she's driving to go to the fix. She's driving to go to the fix. I can't speak. The he that was